Welcome everyone to Arbinger's first in this limited webinar series, Forging Resilience in Chaos. In the feedback we received from our previous series, as well as questions we received from you in advance of this, resilience came up as a very common theme. And I think that the experts that we've gathered for this series will really help calm us all a bit and answer some of those questions that you've had. Today's session, Captain Your Ship, Exerting Influence in a High-Stress Environment, is in direct response to a large swath of those questions that we got from all of you, specifically mentioning stress and anxiety. It's a very common concern for us right now. This session, as a reminder, is being recorded today. So if you registered, you will receive a copy of this recording in your email, as well as information about our next presentation tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. We are also concurrently broadcasting this on our YouTube channel. If you have any technical difficulties, feel free to hop over to that channel and watch it there if it's easier for you. It's worth noting that following each webinar, I sit down in separate rooms with our presenters and answer a few questions. We get lots and lots and lots of questions about these webinars. So being able to sit down and do this Q&A is really a privilege, and it gives us the opportunity to dig in a little deeper to some of those questions, especially the really common ones that we get if they're not answered in the webinar. These Q&As are made available on the webinar section of the Arbinger website. So arbinger.com/webinars is where this Q&A after will be put up. And right now, the Q&As from our previous session, Managing Rapid Change in Crisis, are available on that site. So go ahead, feel free to request them there. They are available to you. 2 weeks ago, we started this series by asking 2 questions, and I'm going to ask those questions today as kind of a gauge for us to see where we've gone, where we've come, what kind of challenges have increased or decreased in the last 2 weeks. So if we can pull up that first poll, the first question is, are you working remotely? Is this a change from your previous situation? Have you always been remote? Is this new because of COVID-19? Are you still working in the office or wherever you're located? Let's take a moment to fill that out. And now let's look at these results. It looks like we have an even larger number of people working remotely than we did even 2 weeks ago, which I guess isn't surprising and will probably continue to increase at least over the immediate future. So for our next question, let's go ahead and pull that up. This is around the challenges of social distancing that are being presented to you right now and how it feels to you. So go ahead and pull that up. So this is a multiple choice, and some of you may end up selecting all of the answers. Social distancing is a word that I've chosen for ease of communication, but I really like the phrase spatial distancing as well, as kind of a reminder that we all need to be paying attention and being mindful of those social connections and maintaining those in this difficult time. And the results of that poll show that it's pretty clear that we're all struggling with some pretty major challenges. It breaks my heart to see that, but at the same time, there's something very unifying about that we're all really struggling with the same things and coming together to try and find answers to that, whether it's on this webinar series or anywhere else. We're all in this together. So thank you so much for participating in those polls. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Desmond Lomax, our speaker for today. Desmond is a clinical mental health therapist who worked in the field of law enforcement and corrections for more than 20 years. With the Utah DOC, Desmond worked a great deal to expand treatment resources for those on probation and on parole. He is an adjunct professor at the University of Utah in forensic social work and the past president of the Utah Mental Health Counseling Association. He's also, if I may say, just a really good guy. Desmond is very committed to helping and to serving and to turning the world outward. We're very fortunate today to have Desmond with us to present on exerting influence in a high-stress environment. To you, Desmond.
Appreciate the introduction. Desmond Lomax, Senior Consultant and Executive Coach for Arbinger. Today, the topic is Captain Your Ship, Exerting Influence in High-Stress Environments. It's just amazing today. Like, With everything going on with this pandemic, it seems like everywhere we go, there's high stress environments. So what I want to do is just kind of lean heavily on my clinical background today and take you through some basic steps in reducing stress. I feel the goal of captaining your ship is taking care of yourself so then you then have the ability to take care of others. Let's look a little bit at like some of the results of COVID-19 and some of the pandemics the pandemic we're seeing right now. Obviously, we're seeing reduction in staff all over the place. Our unemployment rates have skyrocketed in weeks, and it makes us all very anxious. We're also sending all of our staff home. And so one of the unique situations we have here is like, not only are we anxious about our jobs, we're anxious about how we're going to care for the people we love and care for ourselves, then we get sent home with all that anxiety and stress, okay? And because of that, it creates so much uncertainty in many aspects of our lives, not just business, but personally. Our ability to maintain our health, what that means. There's all these different rules placed upon communities, cities, states, countries, and we're all a little confused about how we need to navigate it. All of these things have heightened our natural inclination to draw inward. We have begun to really focus just solely on our results. I would never have thought 6 months ago that one of my major concerns would be, do I have enough toilet paper at home? And I'm in the middle of work, I'm in this conference meeting, and I'm texting my wife real quick, like, honey, like, are we good? Like, do we have enough of the essentials? I would have never thought it would be a thing to like go to the store to get ice cream, and there's no ice cream left. I thought I was the only person who ate ice cream when I was stressed. Obviously, my whole community loves ice cream as well. It's interesting, look, we become so self-focused when we're in these situations. And so let's talk a little bit of why that's a problem. There's a difference between being inward and outward, and I just want to briefly discuss this. These are some of our Arbinger principles. For some of us that are new to Arbinger, welcome. We're going to talk briefly about this before we go into some self-care aspects. One of the things is when I tend to just focus on my results and my objectives, and I become self-focused, others are objects. So I want you to think about that. When I'm self-focused, others are objects, which is something none of us want. Our goal of being outward, and so when I mention being outward for the next 20 to 25 minutes, what I really want to focus on is, instead of focusing just on my results, I focus on our results. My objective and my behaviors take into account the objectives and behaviors of others. So I simply see people as people. In this time of great stress, we want to continue to see people as people with the same trials, tribulations, challenges that we have. We want to see them. Our capacity to see others and to have this outward mindset and to focus on our results will give us that capacity to not only captain our ship, but exert the necessary influence that we want, okay? Being self-focused, the only influence you're really exerting is really focused on self. People can sense that, and we will not get the outcomes we want. So understanding that, let's move forward. Okay. We must weather two storms today as we're captaining our own ship. One is a pandemic that is creating isolation and social distance. Even in times of war, they had sports, different Olympics, different events that are now being counsels. In times of war, we had opportunities to still have some semblance of normalcy. We could gather together in communities and as families. I had a recent meeting with my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, and we were like 6 feet apart, saying, hey, it's good to see you, thanks for coming by. It's very unique to be in this circumstance where it's actually creating more isolation than we would want as a society. The next thing we need to weather is this desire to draw inward and focus on our personal results. And so as we move forward today, I want you to think about what are some of the things I can do to get those results, not just for me, but for others? And what are some of the things I can do to be successful in caring for others? There's been a lot of questions, and I'm going to answer those questions at the end, where people are like, how do I take care of other people? How do I have influence when I'm not a supervisor? How do I do these things? I hope today you'll get some of those things answered. But before we even get into that, we want to really focus on this piece of learning to rest and recover, and learning to improve our ability to stay outward. Those are going to be our two learning tasks today. How do we stay outward, and how do we rest and recover? Now you're thinking, what does resting and recovering do with anything? It's going to do with everything. And I'm going to go through a little bit of mental health work with you guys real quick so we can discover the importance of rest and recover. As a mental health counselor and a licensed clinician, people come to me with so many different problems and challenges. And one of the first things I would do is I always would ask them, how are they feeling personally? And what we tend to recognize and see in most circumstances is people are worried about others and how can I improve this relationship and how can I do this, but rarely are they really focused in on what's going on with themselves. Most of the time we don't see the challenges we have within ourselves until our stress has gotten so overwhelming that we just fall apart. We missed all the different signs. So today we're going to really focus on proactive activities we can do to address those stressful signs that we have on a day-to-day basis. Right. First thing I want to do is talk about this parasympathetic nervous system. What is it? Now, we know what stress is. We know what stress looks like. A lot of us, will go through life waking up stressed, waking up like with our heart rate high, shortness of breath. We wake up, with all of these different signs of stress. Today we want to talk about the part of the nervous system that reduces stress or reverses stress. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. Luckily, we have this system that helps us create a break in our stress cycle. And we want to talk about the activities that help us reduce that. A lot of us are anxious. A lot of us are stressed. What I want to focus on today are several things we can do to address our stress first. Okay. These are a few parasympathetic activities, okay? Any of us can do at least one or two of these a day. And so I want to briefly go through some of these, as easy as moderate sun exposure to walking outside, low-key music, deep breathing, yoga stretches, non-competitive play. There's so many different things we can do. I want you to really consider what that looks like in your day-to-day life. A lot of us have gone from maybe working in an environment, having a certain routine, and learning how to manage that routine, to being now in our homes, having to maybe have relationships with our loved ones and try to work simultaneously. We're trying to do all of these things together, right? Are we making time for any of these things? Any of these things. I want you guys to just look at this list. Are we making time for any of these things? Are we making time for multiple things? Are we making time to laugh? Are we making time for intimacy? Are we making time for these things in these high stressful environments? And so one of the things I want you to do as homework is I really want you to identify one or two of these things you can do today. The goal of parasympathetic activity is it stops the stress cycle. Many of us have this underlying stress cycle that goes on and on and on, and we only feel it when it starts to wreak havoc in elements of our lives. Healthy parasympathetic activities help us to stay stress resilient. It gives us the capacity to stay stress resilient. Any of these things you can do, many of these things you can do, they don't cost anything. You can do them immediately and you can get the results that you want. Okay, so we're gonna have a quick poll. We have 4 things on here. Walking outside, listening to music, mindfulness meditation, laughing. Which one are you gonna do, guys? Let's go. Okay, great. Let's look at some of these results. Looks like 76% of you said walking outside. 46% of you said you'd listen to music, 29% meditation, 46% laughter. Awesome. All of those things are free for the most part, folks. we can start utilizing these things. Remember, being mindful about our parasympathetic activities reduces and reverses stress. I wanted to give you guys a quick heads up. Screen time is actually stimulating. It does not help us here. So I'm very clear. Screen time does not reverse or does not stop the stress cycle. Many of us will go to the screen as a way to de-escalate. It's not helpful. It will give you an opportunity to maybe focus on other things. It'll give you an opportunity to maybe get your mind off of things, but it does not stop the stress cycle. It may postpone it for an hour or 2 or 3, depending on how much you're on this. Screen time does not help. It continues to stimulate the brain. It continues to help the stress cycle go. It does not work in this. So please utilize some of the examples I've given you, and you'll see that it'll help you with your stress. One other thing I want to address, just a really quick activity I want you guys to look at. This is something like we all have, it looks like the majority of us have home offices, and so I wanted to give you like a really quick opportunity to maybe look at an activity that you could utilize at any moment, okay? Okay, so one of these activities here is, we call this active rest or constructive rest. In this position, I'm getting my legs up over the chair in that 90-degree angle. I'm stretching a muscle called the psoas muscle, which is actually connected to the fight or flight response. And that fight or flight response is what helps us go from, oh, I'm cool, to, it's super aggressive. This position right here is a very quick position. I've always recommended. I typically use this position when I'm high stressed. You can just go from your desk to the floor for 3 to 5 minutes, take some deep mindfulness breaths, and watch your life change. And watch that stress cycle be stopped and altered. Just like I said, use this at any point. I just wanted to give you a clear example. You can always go back to this. If it's something you want to look up at the internet, you can look at it as constructive rest or active rest. In a position like this, we typically wake up energized. And so that's just one example I wanted to give you. So now that we've discussed this a little bit, and I'm discussing it, one of the questions someone said, like how do I help others who are burnt out? How do I reach out to people that are struggling? And so I wanted to cover that for the last part of what we wanted to do. Obviously, I've took the first 10 minutes to stress this. Before you address other people's stress, address your own. I cannot say that enough. People can sense, can you imagine this scenario where I'm high stressed and I'm going to someone else like, hey, I really want to help you deal with your stress and you need to walk and Desmond said that put your legs up and that'll work too. And the whole time this person is looking at you knowing that you are struggling, maybe even more stressed out than they are. To be authentic, to be able to do this effectively, do not forward any of these skills to anyone else until you take care of yourself. Addressing your stress is the number one key that I can't focus on enough. One of the next things is we really want to start this process of reaching out to others and what that looks like. Once I've addressed my stress, first of all, it's a lot easier to see others. It's a lot easier to be in a position to be able to be helpful, but start that process. And what does that process look like? Increase your frequency. Now keep in mind, if you traditionally have had a meeting once a month for an hour, I would recommend having a meeting every week for 15 minutes. I can't stress enough that this ability to reach out to people consistently, like sometimes we have in our minds, you know what, people don't want to hear from me. I'm just wasting their time. I'm here to tell you, in today's current environment, where the majority of us are working from home, it is nice to have a manager, a supervisor, or coworker take the time to set an appointment with me weekly to reach out to me and to see how I'm doing, okay? I would make it a habit, I would schedule it, and I'd let people know that's something they could count on. I can now count on my coworker or my supervisor reaching out to me for 15 minutes once a week. And I would definitely stress that And I would get past the things in our head that says people don't want to listen to me, people don't want me to reach out. All of those things are false. I'm here to tell you, when we're cooped up and we're working from home, we need that connection, and connection is everything. Another thing, when we check in, it is not about you. The goal of checking in is to listen and learn what others are going through. So when you start every check-in, I want you to say, hey, what is going on with you? And how can I be helpful? And then listen and learn. I can't stress that enough. Sometimes as administrators, supervisors, directors, we think, okay, I have a 15-minute schedule, we're gonna meet with everybody, we're gonna reach out to everybody, and we never took the time to listen. I would, if you can, from a clinical well-being standpoint, if you don't ask the question frequently, how are you doing? And I wanna know, I truly wanna know, that's just not one of those, hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm doing fine. It's, how are you doing? Now I'm gonna listen and learn. The process of slowing down, how are you doing? Pause, listen and learn, will not only create this capacity or this ability to actually understand what people are going on, it's actually real connection. We want that ability to have that real, authentic connection. And I had to learn this the hard way, because, you know, if you haven't told, I talk a lot. But I had to learn the hard way that some of the greatest connections were just saying, how are you doing? And then stopping and listening and learning. What it gave me was an opportunity to be who I really wanted to be as a supervisor and a director. My goal as a supervisor, as a consultant, as an executive coach is this: I don't know how to do my job until I know what you need. So all of us out there, keep that in mind. As I'm checking in, the goal is to listen and learn. And if you don't know what they need, you do not have the capacity to do your job. And so my job as a supervisor or a director or a leader in my organization is to be able to understand what people's needs are and to move forward with those needs. Okay. A part of doing that will enhance relationships. Guys, I would have never thought that we'd be in this position, but we actually have an opportunity to improve our relationships while we're working from home. We have an opportunity to actually reach out to people, take 15, 10 minutes, all of these different increments. We have all these opportunities to reach out to individual people and say, how are you doing? And then take the time to listen and learn how they're doing. We will enhance relationships as a part of this pandemic. We will be closer to people, we'll have a better understanding of people if we take the time to listen and learn in this time where we all feel vulnerable. One other thing, burnout is directly connected to isolation of thoughts. So one of the challenges, one of the bonuses is that, hey, this is the opportunity for me to enhance relationships. But one of the challenges is of sending everyone home to work from home is that we don't have a lot of checks and balances. We don't have people we can talk to in our work community that would totally help us, like maybe clear some things up. And so recognize, guys, that if your people are struggling from burnout, they have an isolation of thoughts. They're not generally feeling connected to you or anyone in the organization. So that's to me, that is a clue that this individual is burnt out. I am going to slow down, figure out what's going on with this individual, figure out how I can be helpful, and then follow through on that help. One thing that I love to do is I tell people this. I say, look, I, as your supervisor, I'm accountable to you. So now I've just listened to all of these concerns you've had. I'm going to check back in with you weekly, and we're going to follow through on some of the things that I can help you with in regards to some of these challenges. You want to reduce burnout? That's one of those key approaches, is that being able to engage people, understand the isolation of thoughts and things that are surrounding the burnout, and following through on those things to help those people get through. I've already mentioned this before, But in odd, difficult times, businesses can grow. We can be more connected to people. Zoom and all of these different apparatuses have brought me closer to people and gotten to know people that I didn't know I could. And so take this opportunity to utilize our technology, utilize this time where maybe we all feel isolated and we're all struggling. Utilize this time to become connected and grow closer to others. Last but not least, address abundancy and not scarcity. Please do not be problem focused. Be solution focused. Before you engage people who are already under lots of stress, ask yourself, what is the solution? What is the solution I'm trying to reach, and can we focus on that? I promise you that if you focus on abundance, others will focus on abundance, and that you'll be able to accomplish your goals quicker. So what we wanted to do real quick, I have a few minutes left. I wanted to go through and answer a few questions that we have before we finish this up. One person said, can I still have influence if I'm not a leader? Absolutely. Captain your ship. Take care of yourself first, and then take care of others. Remember, like, we all have this cool technology now. Reach out to a coworker that that might be quiet in like maybe one of these group meetings. Reach out, have a private meeting for someone. Ask them, how are you doing? Stop and listen. You can have so much power right now, and you do not have to be a leader. In fact, some of our most powerful leaders don't have titles, and I really want you to embrace that. The next thing is how can I recognize signs of stress in my team members? Just assume everyone's stressed. Make an assumption that everyone is stressed and that you're going to be looking for ways to care for them in their stress. Any person I engage right now, I automatically make an assumption that they're stressed. The next part is how can I have influence on team members who are working remotely? I answered that a little bit already. Take the time to engage with them individually and take the time to listen. Another question, at one point, does exertion of influence become destructive of team? Not if it's focused on the team. Influence can only be destructive when we're really just focused on ourselves. If I'm focused on others, if I'm focused on the results of others, and I'm taking the time to try to understand others, that's not destructive at all. That's always going to build, and keep that in mind. How do I have hard conversations with team members that are stressed? I would say this, ask yourself what is lacking, and ask yourself what the solution is. Stressed people want solutions just as much as you do, but before you start that hard conversation, I would spend some time listening and learning about that person's stress, because I think what you'll find in listening and learning is the opportunity it'll probably probably answer some of your own questions. Guys, looks like it's 11:30. I want to thank you. Please, if you have any questions, right, write them down, send them to us at an Arbinger, and our host will give you that information. We're going to have a question and answer time that I'm going to answer all those questions. It is my honor to be able to help you and support you. Like me, I'm stressed out. Like you, I'm stressed out. Let's move forward. Let's see the abundance in our lives. Let's love ourselves and love the people that we've been given to love, and let's move forward. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll speak to you again. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Desmond, for being with us today. I know that personally it gives me a great deal of comfort and reassurance knowing there are people like you out there just helping us all get through this and find mechanisms to cope with it together and on our own. I hope that those of you who are watching are able to take a piece of that advice or the tools that Desmond shared with us and implement them today. Go use them today. I know for me personally, I think I will go take family dinner into the backyard, get a change of scenery, and maybe do something that feels a little special and different in this world where every day kind of feels the same, especially for my kids. We encourage all of you to follow Arbinger on LinkedIn, where we make announcements about our new presentations and our newest available resources. And you can also connect with Desmond there. I recommend it. So we get a ton of questions and comments around these webinars, both before and during and after, just lots and lots of questions. If you have any questions that are specifically related to Arbinger and their products, feel free, email us at info@arbinger.com to get those questions answered. In addition to that, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, I am the lucky person who gets to interview Desmond in a Q&A session where I bring in some of those questions that I bring to him, some of those questions that you have all submitted, with the intention and the result of getting a little deeper dive into those. And those are always a really nice conversation, especially with Desmond. Obviously, he's a really well-spoken and nice and intelligent guy. So I'm really looking forward to it. Again, those Q&As, they live separately from these webinar recordings on our website, arbinger.com/webinars. And you can find the existing Q&As we have from our previous session, Managing Rapid Change in Crisis. Those are up right now, and you can go ahead and request those at any time. By way of reminder, the recordings for this presentation will be made available to you. Later today, you will get an email with a link to this presentation, as well as information about tomorrow's presentation, which I'm really looking forward to. And we invite you to share those with your networks, with your friends, family, companies, whoever you feel like maybe would benefit from this. I think a lot of people, and our feedback has been that a lot of people, a lot of you and me, have gotten a lot of value out of hearing from people present on these very salient and timely topics. So please, you can forward the email that you received tonight, the calendar confirmation you got, or just share arbinger.com/webinars. Put it on your social media, share it with each other. We invite everybody to participate and get the value out of this that we can get. Last week, we announced the expanded availability of Arbinger's Developing and Implementing an Outward Mindset workshop to a virtual platform that has existed before, but now we've made it openly available so that people who register for that workshop have the opportunity to participate virtually. And it's going really well so far. We just had one earlier this week, and the engagement we get on those virtual presentations is it's just amazing. Technology is amazing, and we're so lucky to have access to it. This week, I'm excited to also announce, or at least share the message of Arbinger's Outward Mindset Fundamentals. That's an on-demand, fully video-driven course that can be shared with an entire organization or an individual. It's a very simple license that you can work through as a team, you can do on your own. And it seems to be a really valuable resource for people, especially right now as we're all dealing with this crisis, both personally and professionally. So I recommend Arbinger's Outward Mindset Fundamentals, and you can get more information about that just on our website, arbinger.com. Again, thank you to Desmond so much for your presentation. It's so informative, and it's so wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for being here. Join us again tomorrow for our next presentation, Chaos to Calm, Developing an Organizational Change Plan, another highly requested topic. That presenter will be Mitch Warner, who's the best-selling author and managing partner of Arbinger Institute. We look forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Thank you, and stay safe.